My daughter was rushed to the hospital after a car accident. I called my wife. Please, come now, she needs you. She laughed and said, I can't. I'm at TA party with someone special. A few hours later, she was brought to the same hospital. The doctor pulled me aside and whispered, "Ma'am, this wasn't a coincidence." Chapter 1. Illusions of Perfection. Vincent Delacroix stared at the architectural blueprints spread across his home office desk, his calloused fingers tracing the intricate details of what would become San Francisco's newest luxury high-rise. At 43, he had built Delacroix Construction from nothing into one of the West Coast's premier construction firms. The company's success was a testament to his relentless work ethic and unyielding standards, traits that had earned him both fortune and fear in equal measure. Burning the midnight oil again. Natalie's voice floated from the doorway, a glass of red wine dangling between her manicured fingers. Vincent didn't look up. The Portman project deadline got moved up. Someone has to make sure we don't lose the contract. Natalie sighed, the sound heavy with practiced disappointment. You promised to cut back on the late nights, Vincent. Amanda's swim meet is tomorrow. Vincent finally raised his eyes to his wife of 15 years. At 39, Natalie Delacroix remained striking, honey blonde hair falling in perfect waves, emerald eyes that had once captivated him. Tonight she wore an outfit he didn't recognize, a black cocktail dress that seemed excessive for a quiet evening at home. Business dinner with the Peterson account? He asked, nodding at her attire. Something flickered across Natalie's face. Charity committee meeting, I told you last week. Vincent nodded, though he had no recollection of any mention. Their conversations had grown increasingly transactional over the past year. Ships passing in the night, exchanging only necessary information. He wondered when exactly they had stopped truly talking to each other. I'll be there for Amanda tomorrow, he promised, returning to his blueprints. I've never missed a meet. After Natalie left, Vincent leaned back in his chair, his mind drifting to their daughter. Amanda, 16 and fiercely independent, had inherited his determination and her mother's beauty. Despite his demanding schedule, he had made it a point never to miss her important moments. Whatever was happening between him and Natalie, Amanda remained his North Star. His phone vibrated with a text from Leo Harmon, his oldest friend and the company's head of security. Need to talk tomorrow. Something you should know. Breakfast at Sullivan's, 7 a.m. Vincent frowned. Leo wasn't one for cryptic messages. He texted back a simple yes before returning to work, unaware that the foundations of his life were already beginning to crack. The next morning at Sullivan's Diner, Vincent slid into the booth opposite Leo, a burly former Marine with a perpetual 5 shadow and unwavering loyalty. This better be important, Vincent said, ordering black coffee. I've got the zoning commission at 9. Leo's expression remained grave. It's about Natalie. Vincent's cup paused halfway to his lips. What about her? She's been meeting someone regularly. Leo slid a manila envelope across the table. I didn't want to believe it myself, but Davis from our security team spotted her at the Meridian Hotel 3 weeks ago. I've been following up since then. Vincent's expression remained impassive as he opened the envelope. Inside were photos of Natalie entering the upscale hotel, timestamps showing various dates over the past month. In one she walked alongside a tall man with dark hair, his hand resting possessively on the small of her back. His name is Dominic Reynolds, Leo continued. Some hotshot real estate developer from LA been in town the past few months working on that Riverside project. Vincent studied the man's face, committing it to memory. How long? At least 3 months that we can confirm. Vincent carefully returned the photos to the envelope, his movements deliberate and controlled. Anyone who didn't know him well might think he was merely considering business documents. Only the whiteness of his knuckles betrayed the storm brewing beneath his composed exterior. I appreciate your discretion, Vincent said finally, his voice unnervingly calm. Keep this between us for now. Leo nodded, concerned by his friend's eerie composure. What are you going to do? Vincent stood, placing cash on the table for both their coffees. Nothing yet. I need more information. His eyes, now cold as winter steel, met Leo's. And Leo? I want everything on Dominic Reynolds. Everything. As Vincent walked to his car, his phone rang. Amanda's swim coach. His daughter had been in a car accident on the way to morning practice. She was being rushed to St. Francis Memorial Hospital. The world tilted on its axis. Chapter 2. Shattered Glass. Vincent's Audi cut through traffic like a missile, emergency flashers blinking as he weaved between cars. His mind raced with possibilities, each more terrifying than the last. The coach hadn't known details, just that Amanda's car had been T-boned at an intersection, and she was unconscious when paramedics arrived. He tried Natalie's cell phone 3 times. No answer. Finally, on the 4th attempt, she picked up, her voice thick with sleep or something else he couldn't identify. Natalie, Amanda's been in an accident. She's at St. Francis. I'm almost there now. A pause. Background noise, music, laughter. What? Is she okay? I don't know yet. She was unconscious when they took her. Vincent's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. Please, come now. She needs you. He heard muffled voices. Then Natalie's response chilled him. I can't. I'm at a party with someone special. I'll come as soon as I can get away. The line went dead before Vincent could respond. Vincent arrived at the emergency room entrance and barely remembered to put his car in park before bolting inside. A harried nurse directed him to a trauma bay, where Dr. Mitchell, a somber man with salt and pepper hair, was examining Amanda. Mr. Delacroix, the doctor acknowledged. Your daughter has a concussion, 3 broken ribs, and a fractured wrist. We're waiting on CT scan results to rule out internal bleeding, but her vitals are stable. Vincent moved to his daughter's side. Amanda's face was pale beneath a gash on her forehead, her breathing shallow but steady. He gently took her uninjured hand. She was lucky, Dr. Mitchell continued. The impact was on the passenger side. If she'd had someone with her, he'd let the implication hang. Vincent nodded, relief washing over him that her injuries weren't worse. When will she wake up? Hard to say with concussions. Could be minutes, could be hours. 3 hours later, Amanda finally stirred, her eyes fluttering open. Dad. Her voice was barely a whisper. I'm here, sweetheart. Vincent squeezed her hand gently. You're going to be okay. Amanda's eyes searched the room. Where's Mom? Vincent's jaw tightened. In the hours he'd spent at Amanda's bedside, Natalie still hadn't arrived. His calls had gone straight to voicemail. She's on her way, he lied, unwilling to upset his injured daughter. Around noon, Amanda had drifted back to sleep when a commotion in the hallway caught Vincent's attention. EMTs rushed a gurney past the door, doctors shouting orders. Something about the chaos pulled Vincent to the doorway, some sixth sense he couldn't explain. On the gurney was Natalie, her face bloody and dress torn, an oxygen mask obscuring her features. Behind the gurney, looking equally disheveled with a cut above his eye, was the man from Leo's photographs, Dominic Reynolds. Vincent stood frozen, the coincidence too bizarre to process. Dr. Mitchell spotted him and approached quickly, pulling him aside. Mr. Delacroix, he whispered, glancing around to ensure privacy. I need to be frank with you. Your wife and that man were in a car accident at the exact same intersection as your daughter, just on the opposite side. They were. He hesitated, intoxicated. The man was driving. This wasn't a coincidence. Vincent's mind rapidly pieced together the implications. The same intersection, hours apart. Amanda driving to early morning swim practice, taking her usual route. Natalie and her lover, leaving what must have been an all-night affair, intoxicated and careless. Are you saying they caused my daughter's accident? Vincent's voice was deadly quiet. Dr. Mitchell looked uncomfortable. The police are investigating, but preliminary reports suggest their car ran the red light that caused your daughter's accident. They fled the scene and apparently circled back hours later, still intoxicated, and had their own collision. Something cold and terrible crystallized in Vincent's chest. His wife's affair had nearly killed their daughter. And instead of coming to the hospital when Amanda needed her, Natalie had continued her debauchery with her lover. Thank you for telling me, Vincent said, his calm demeanor belying the rage building inside him. I'd appreciate your discretion while I figure out how to tell my daughter. Dr. Mitchell nodded solemnly. Of course. But you should know, the police will want statements soon. Vincent returned to Amanda's room, his mind already calculating, planning. He made a call to Thomas Wells, his attorney, requesting his immediate presence at the hospital. Then he called Leo. I need a security detail for Amanda's room. No one gets in except medical staff and me. He paused. And Leo? Natalie's here too. She was in an accident with Reynolds. They caused Amanda's crash. Leo's sharp intake of breath was audible. Jesus, Vincent. What do you need? Everything in motion. Now, when he ended the call, Vincent looked at his sleeping daughter, her young face marred by injuries caused by her own mother's recklessness. In that moment, something within Vincent Delacroix died. Any remnant of love or mercy he might have harbored for his wife or anyone who harmed his family. He would make them pay. Not quickly, not obviously, but thoroughly, completely, and without a shred of mercy. Chapter 3. The Architect of Vengeance. 2 days later, Amanda was released from the hospital into Vincent's care. She knew only that her mother had also been in an accident and was still recovering. Vincent had decided to wait until she was stronger before revealing the full, ugly truth. Natalie remained hospitalized with a punctured lung and internal bleeding. Dominic Reynolds had been treated and released, then promptly arrested for DUI, leaving the scene of an accident and reckless endangerment. He was out on bail within hours. Vincent sat in his home office. The space transformed into a war room. Spread across his desk were dossiers compiled by Leo and a private investigator named Russell Graves, a man who operated in moral gray areas but got results. Reynolds has a history of DUIs, Russell explained, pointing to a document. 2 in California, charges reduced both times. His family has connections in LA, Vincent nodded, absorbing the information. And the affair? Been going on for nearly 7 months, based on hotel records and credit card statements. Russell handed over more photos. Natalie and Dominic at restaurants, entering hotels, even boarding a private flight to Vegas 3 months prior. They weren't particularly careful. What about his business? This Riverside development? Russell smiled thinly. That's where it gets interesting. The project's financing is shaky at best. Reynolds' development is leveraged to the hilt. He's been courting investors desperately, including your wife. Vincent's eyes narrowed. My wife doesn't have investment capital. No, but you do. Russell slid forward bank statements, showing significant withdrawals from joint accounts, nearly $2 million over 6 months. She's been funding his project, Mr. Delacroix. Cold fury flooded Vincent's veins. Not only had Natalie betrayed their marriage, endangered their daughter, but she'd been bankrolling her lover with Vincent's hard-earned money. Thomas Wells, Vincent's attorney, arrived as Russell was leaving. The lawyer's somber expression matched the gravity of the situation. I've filed the emergency petition for separation of assets, Thomas confirmed. Given the circumstances, the judge granted it immediately. Your personal and business accounts are protected now. And the other matters? Thomas placed a folder on the desk. Divorce papers are ready. I've also spoken with the district attorney. They're considering upgrading the charges against Reynolds to include assault with a deadly weapon. The evidence that they caused Amanda's accident is compelling. Vincent nodded, but his mind was already beyond mere legal consequences. What about custody? Given Natalie's actions and Amanda's age, I don't foresee challenges. The judge will consider Amanda's preferences, and she'll choose me, Vincent said with certainty. After Thomas left, Vincent poured himself a rare glass of whiskey and moved to the window overlooking the San Francisco skyline. In construction, he had learned that sometimes the most effective approach was to demolish completely before rebuilding. Natalie and Dominic had destroyed what he valued most, his family's safety and trust. Now he would dismantle their lives with the same methodical precision he applied to his business. His phone buzzed with a text from St. Francis Hospital. Natalie was asking to see him. Vincent smiled coldly. The first move in his carefully orchestrated game was about to begin. The following morning, Vincent entered Natalie's hospital room, his face a mask of concerned husband despite the evidence folder tucked under his arm. She looked genuinely relieved to see him, her pale face brightening. Vincent, she breathed, thank God. No one will tell me anything about Amanda. He sat beside her bed, maintaining a careful distance. She's home, recovering. Natalie's eyes filled with tears. I need to explain about that night. You mean the night our daughter nearly died because of you? His voice remained conversational, almost pleasant. Natalie blanched. What are you talking about? Vincent opened the folder, placing police reports and witness statements before her. You and Dominic ran the light that caused Amanda's accident. Then, instead of helping her, instead of coming when I called, you continued your party. Hours later, you crashed at the same intersection. That's not we didn't know, Natalie stammered, panic rising in her eyes. 7 months, Vincent continued calmly. That's how long you've been sleeping with him. And $1,800,000, that's how much of my money you've given him. He placed bank statements atop the accident reports. Natalie's face crumpled. Vincent, please. I made a terrible mistake, but I love you. We can fix this. Vincent stood, straightening his suit jacket. There's nothing to fix, Natalie. By the time you're discharged, you'll find your access to our accounts revoked, divorce papers waiting, and a restraining order preventing you from contacting Amanda until she decides otherwise. You can't do this, Natalie whispered, shocked by his coldness. Vincent leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. That's just the beginning. You and your lover tried to destroy what matters to me. Now I'm going to dismantle your lives so thoroughly you'll wish you'd never met each other. He straightened, his public face sliding back into place. Get well soon, Natalie. As he walked out, he heard her begin to sob, the first genuine emotion he'd seen from her in years. It left him completely unmoved. In the corridor, Vincent took out his phone and sent a text to Leo. Phase 1 complete. Begin Phase 2. The demolition had begun. Now it was time to build his revenge. Chapter 4, The Tangled Web. 3 weeks after the accident, Vincent sat across from Russell Graves in a private booth at Noir, an exclusive club where discretion came with the exorbitant membership fee. Amanda was healing well, staying with Vincent's sister in Marin County while he set his plans in motion. She still didn't know the full truth about her mother's involvement in her accident, but Vincent had promised to tell her everything when she returned home in 2 days. Reynolds is getting desperate, Russell reported, sliding a thumb drive across the table. Since you cut off Natalie's funding and his investors got wind of the DUI charges, his project is hanging by a thread. He's meeting with some questionable characters tomorrow night. Vincent pocketed the drive. And Natalie? Living at the Fairmont on her personal credit cards. She's running through money quickly. Her friend Valerie Thompson has been visiting daily, usually leaving in tears. Russell paused. Natalie's tried to contact Amanda 12 times. Your sister has blocked her number as instructed. Vincent nodded, unsurprised by Natalie's persistence. She had always been tenacious, a quality he had once admired. Has she reached out to any attorneys besides the court-appointed one? No. Either she can't afford better representation, or she's still in denial about how serious you are. Vincent smiled thinly. She'll understand soon enough. He pulled out his phone, checking the time. I have another meeting. Keep monitoring both of them. Across town at a trendy waterfront restaurant, Vincent slid into a seat opposite Alexis Palmer, a striking brunette in her late 30s who headed Palmer Media, one of San Francisco's most influential PR firms. Vincent Delacroix in the flesh, Alexis remarked, studying him over her martini. When you requested this meeting, I was intrigued. Your company has always handled PR in-house. This isn't about Delacroix Construction, Vincent replied, ordering scotch from a passing server. It's about Dominic Reynolds. Alexis's perfectly arched eyebrow rose. Reynolds? The developer with the Riverside project? What's your interest? Vincent slid a folder across the table. Inside you'll find evidence that Reynolds has been systematically bribing city officials to fast-track approvals, circumventing environmental regulations, and misrepresenting his financial backing to investors. Alexis opened the folder, her expression shifting from skepticism to intrigue as she scanned the documents. These are serious allegations, Vincent. Why bring them to me instead of the authorities? The authorities will get their copy. But I know your firm specializes in reputation management, both building and destroying them. Vincent leaned forward. I want Reynolds' name radioactive in this city before the week is out. And what did Mr. Reynolds do to earn such enmity? Vincent's eyes hardened. He nearly killed my daughter while driving drunk with my wife. Understanding dawned on Alexis's face. The accident that's been in the society pages. I didn't make the connection. She closed the folder. This would certainly make compelling content for several journalists I know. I'm prepared to compensate your firm generously for exclusive management of this information. Alexis studied him for a long moment. It's not about money, is it, Vincent? You want to destroy him? Completely. She nodded slowly. My team can start tomorrow, but fair warning, once this gets out, there's no controlling where it ends. The blowback could affect your wife as well. Vincent's smile was cold. I'm counting on it. Later that evening, Vincent returned home to find Leo waiting in his study. The security chief looked troubled. We may have a problem, Leo said without preamble. Reynolds met with someone today who doesn't fit his usual pattern, a man named Garrett Walsh. Vincent frowned. Should I know that name? Walsh is ex-military, dishonorably discharged. Now he works as muscle for hire, not your garden-variety bodyguard, but the kind who handles problems permanently. Vincent absorbed this, his expression calculating rather than concerned. Reynolds is getting desperate enough to consider violence. Looks that way. Want me to intervene? Vincent paused, considering. No. Let's see where this goes. But increase Amanda's security detail, and let's make sure our friend Mr. Reynolds knows he's being watched. He turned to his desk, pulling out architectural plans. Now, about the other matter. Leo nodded, pulling out his own set of documents. I've secured the property adjacent to Reynolds' development as you requested. The previous owner was more than happy to accept our offer. Excellent. Vincent spread out a map of the Riverside district. His project depends on access through this corridor. Without it, his entire design becomes unworkable. And with the zoning commission now reviewing his permits thanks to an anonymous tip, Leo trailed off, smiling grimly. Vincent marked several locations on the map. Have our people begin environmental testing here, here, and here. I want to know if there are any protected species or contamination we can leverage. As they worked through the details, Vincent's phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. We need to talk about Natalie. Meet me tomorrow, 8 p.m. at the Blue Room. Dominic Reynolds. Vincent showed the message to Leo, who immediately shook his head. It's a trap. This comes right after he meets with Walsh. Too convenient. I agree, Vincent replied, already typing a response. The Sentinel Hotel lobby, 7 p.m. Come alone or don't come at all. The Sentinel was owned by an old friend of Vincent's, who had installed state-of-the-art security after a celebrity guest had been attacked by a stalker. It was public enough to deter violence, but secure enough to prevent unwanted surveillance. Leo still looked concerned. You're actually meeting him? Vincent's eyes gleamed with cold calculation. Know your enemy, Leo? Besides, I'm curious what he thinks he can offer me at this point, and if it's a threat? Vincent's smile was chilling. Then he'll learn why no one in this business crosses me twice. As Leo departed, Vincent poured himself another scotch and moved to the window. In the distance he could see the lights of the Riverside district where Reynolds' troubled project stood. Soon, very soon, those lights would go out permanently. His phone rang. Amanda. Despite the lateness of the hour, he answered immediately. "Dad." Her voice sounded stronger than it had since the accident. "When can I come home? Aunt Lisa is driving me crazy with her kale smoothies." Vincent chuckled, his demeanor softening as it only did for his daughter. "Day after tomorrow, as planned. The doctors want to make sure you're ready." "I'm ready now," she insisted. "And I need to talk to you about Mom. She keeps trying to contact me through friends." Vincent's jaw tightened. "What do you want to do about that?" A pause. "I want the truth, Dad, all of it, even the parts you've been protecting me from." In that moment, Vincent heard not just his daughter's voice, but the echo of his own unflinching demand for truth. No matter how painful, Amanda was truly his child. "When you come home," he promised, "you'll get the whole truth, and then you can decide what you want to do about your mother." After they hung up, Vincent stared at the phone for a long moment. Amanda deserved honesty, and once she knew everything, he was certain she would understand why Natalie and Dominic needed to pay so completely for what they'd done. Chapter 5. Checkmate in progress. The Sentinel Hotel's lobby was a study in understated luxury, all marble columns and muted gold accents. Vincent arrived 30 minutes early, nodding to the security team he recognized from previous business events. He chose a corner table with clear sightlines to all entrances and exits, then signaled a server. "McAllen, 18, need," he ordered, settling in to wait. Dominic Reynolds arrived precisely at 7, looking considerably less polished than in the photographs Vincent had studied. His designer suit was impeccably cut but couldn't hide the tension in his shoulders. Dark circles under his eyes suggested sleepless nights. "Delacroix," Dominic acknowledged, sliding into the seat opposite Vincent without offering his hand. Vincent merely nodded, taking a measured sip of his scotch. "You wanted to talk? Talk." Dominic's jaw tightened at Vincent's dismissive tone. "This situation has gotten out of hand. I think we can come to an arrangement beneficial to both of us." "Beneficial," Vincent repeated, the word dripping with contempt. "What exactly could you offer that would benefit me? Your wife wants a divorce. You want revenge. Let's not pretend otherwise." Dominic leaned forward. "I can make sure the split is clean. No contest, no publicity, no dragged-out court battles. Natalie will take the minimum settlement you offer." Vincent's laugh was genuine but utterly devoid of humor. "And why would you do that?" "Because my project is more important than my relationship with Natalie." Dominic's candor was surprising. "The Riverside development is my legacy. Without it, I'm finished in this industry." "And you believe I have something to do with your current difficulties?" Vincent's expression remained neutral, though inwardly he was savoring the desperation evident in Reynolds' proposition. "Don't insult my intelligence, Delacroix. The sudden permit reviews, the environmental concerns, the property acquisition blocking my eastern access, they all have your fingerprints on them." Dominic's facade of confidence cracked slightly. "You're methodically dismantling everything I've built." Vincent studied him silently for a moment. "Let's be very clear. You slept with my wife, stole my money, and nearly killed my daughter through your recklessness. And now you want to negotiate." Dominic's expression hardened. "Business is business. What happened with Natalie and the accident, that was personal, regrettable, but separate?" "Nothing is separate," Vincent said softly, dangerously. "Every action has consequences. You're merely beginning to experience yours. So that's it. No room for discussion?" Vincent stood, buttoning his suit jacket with deliberate precision. "There's nothing to discuss. You damaged what matters most to me. Now I'm going to take everything that matters to you." He tossed several bills on the table, starting with Natalie. Dominic's face flushed with anger. "What's that supposed to mean?" Vincent smiled, the expression never reaching his eyes. "She contacted me this morning. Seems she's reconsidering her choices now that her credit cards are maxed out and her lover can't support her lifestyle." He leaned down, his voice dropping to a whisper. "She told me everything, Dominic. Every scheme, every plan you two had for my money. Even the offshore accounts where you've hidden previous investors' funds." The color drained from Dominic's face. "She wouldn't." "Self-preservation has always been Natalie's strongest instinct." Vincent straightened. "Good night, Mr. Reynolds. I suggest you speak with your attorney soon." "Very soon." As Vincent walked away, he could feel Dominic's stare burning into his back. The information about offshore accounts had been a calculated bluff, but Reynolds' reaction told Vincent he'd struck gold. He made a mental note to have Russell look deeper into Reynolds' financial dealings. Outside, Leah waited by the car. "How did it go?" "Predictably," Vincent replied, sliding into the back seat. "He's desperate, making mistakes. Call Alexis Palmer. Tell her to accelerate the media timeline. And I want those environmental test results by morning." Leo nodded, making a note on his phone. Amanda called. She's coming home tomorrow instead of the day after. Your sister is bringing her. Vincent's expression softened momentarily. Good. Have the house ready. He paused. And Leo, make sure Natalie knows Amanda is coming home. Let's see what she does with that information. The next morning brought news that exceeded even Vincent's expectations. Russell arrived at his office before 7, clearly energized despite the early hour. You were right about the offshore accounts, the investigator announced, dropping a thick folder on Vincent's desk. Reynolds has been siphoning investor funds for years. But here's the kicker. Some of that money traces back to known criminal organizations in Los Angeles. He's been laundering money through his development projects. Vincent leafed through the evidence, a slow smile spreading across his face. This is better than I hoped. There's more, Russell continued. After your meeting last night, Reynolds made contact with Garrett Walsh again. They met for over an hour at Reynolds' hotel. Vincent's expression darkened. Did your sources catch any of the conversation? Not directly, but Walsh left with a thick envelope and Reynolds accessed a gun safe in his hotel room afterward. Vincent nodded, unsurprised. He's planning something desperate. Want me to alert the authorities? Not yet. Vincent checked his watch. Amanda comes home today. Double the security team and make sure they're armed. If Reynolds or Walsh make any move toward my family, I want them stopped. Russell looked uncomfortable. Vincent, if you have reason to believe there's an imminent threat, I'm handling it. Vincent cut him off. Just make sure my daughter is protected. After Russell departed, Vincent called Alexis Palmer. It's time. Release everything we have on Reynolds today. By noon, the story had broken across multiple platforms simultaneously. Dominic Reynolds, once promising developer, implicated in financial fraud, environmental violations, and potentially criminal money laundering. His connection to Natalie Delacroix, wife of respected builder Vincent Delacroix, added the salacious element that guaranteed media attention. Within hours, Reynolds' investors were publicly distancing themselves, his permits were officially suspended, and the district attorney's office announced a formal investigation. Vincent watched it unfold from his office, feeling not joy but cold satisfaction. The destruction was proceeding exactly as planned, methodical, comprehensive, and unstoppable. His phone rang. Thomas Wells. Vincent, I've just received word that Natalie's attorney has withdrawn from the divorce case. She's requesting a meeting with you directly without counsel. Interesting timing, Vincent remarked, though he had expected something like this once the stories about Reynolds broke. Schedule it for tomorrow morning at your office. Are you sure that's wise? Without her counsel present. It's fine, Thomas. I want to hear what she has to say. Vincent ended the call and turned back to the financial reports on his desk. Phase 2 was nearly complete. Reynolds was finished professionally and soon would be facing criminal charges. Natalie was isolated and desperate. Now it was time to prepare for the final phase. The complete dismantling of their lives and reputations, leaving them with nothing but the knowledge of how thoroughly they had been outmaneuvered by the man they had underestimated. As evening approached, Vincent left the office early to be home when Amanda arrived. He had arranged for her favorite meal and ensured her room was exactly as she liked it. Whatever storm was brewing with Reynolds and Walsh, Vincent was determined to keep it away from his daughter. She had suffered enough because of their recklessness. He was reviewing security measures with Leo when his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You've won nothing yet. This isn't over. Vincent showed the message to Leo, who immediately began tracing the number. Reynolds is getting reckless, Vincent observed, unconcerned. Good. Desperate people make mistakes. Leo looked up from his phone. Security team reports Amanda and your sister just arrived at the gate. They're bringing them in now. Vincent nodded, putting away all evidence of his ongoing vendetta. For the next few hours at least, he would focus solely on his daughter's homecoming. The destruction of Natalie and Dominic could wait that long. As he heard cars pulling up outside, Vincent straightened his tie and moved to the front door. Whatever happened next in his campaign of vengeance, Amanda's well-being would remain his priority. He would protect her from any fallout, ensure her recovery, and when the time was right, give her the truth she deserved. The doorbell rang. Vincent composed his features into a welcoming smile and opened the door to greet his daughter, his sister, and found himself staring into the barrel of a gun. Chapter 6. Count of Moves. Garrett Walsh stood on Vincent's doorstep, his face impassive as he held the gun steady. Behind him, a visibly anxious Dominic Reynolds gripped Amanda's arm while Vincent's sister Lisa watched in terror. Inside, Walsh ordered, his voice professionally detached. No sudden movements. Vincent's mind raced, calculating options as he backed into the foyer. Where was Leo? Where was the security team that should have been watching the gate? Your security men are taking a nap, Walsh said, reading Vincent's thoughts. They'll wake up with headaches, but they'll live. Whether you do depends on how this conversation goes. Reynolds pushed Amanda toward Vincent, who caught her in a protective embrace. Despite the bruises still visible on her face, her expression was defiant rather than frightened. "Dad," she began. But Vincent squeezed her shoulder gently, a silent signal to remain quiet. "Lisa, take Amanda upstairs," Vincent instructed, his voice calm despite the gun pointed at his chest. Reynolds laughed harshly. "No one's going anywhere, Delacroix. Your daughter stays right here as insurance." Vincent's eyes turned to Reynolds, his gaze so intensely cold that the developer took an involuntary step back. "If you touch her again, there won't be enough left of you to identify." Walsh gestured with his gun, everyone to the living room. Now, once they were seated, Lisa and Amanda on the sofa, Vincent in an armchair facing Reynolds, with Walsh standing guard by the door. Reynolds began pacing anxiously. "You've ruined me," he spat at Vincent. "My investors have pulled out, the DA's freezing my accounts, and my reputation is destroyed. All because your wife preferred me to you." Vincent remained unnervingly calm. "And what did you hope to accomplish by coming here with a gun? Killing me won't solve your problems." "No, but it might feel good," Reynolds snapped, then visibly composed himself. "But that's not why we're here. You're going to fix this." "Fix what exactly?" "You're going to call off your dogs at the DA's office. Issue a public statement that the accusations were a misunderstanding. Transfer the property blocking my eastern access back to the market, and you're going to wire $10 million to an account I'll provide, compensation for the damage you've done." Vincent allowed himself a small, cold smile. "Or," Walsh stepped forward, pointing his gun at Amanda. "Or, we start with your daughter's kneecap and work our way up until you reconsider." The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees as Vincent's expression shifted from controlled to deadly. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "You have made a fatal miscalculation." Reynolds laughed nervously. "You're not exactly in a position to make threats, Delacroix." "Dad?" Amanda said suddenly, her voice surprisingly steady. "It's Mom." All eyes turned to her, confused by the non sequitur. "What?" Reynolds demanded. "Mom's outside," Amanda clarified, nodding toward the window. "She's been following me since the hospital." Reynolds and Walsh exchanged uneasy glances. This variable hadn't been in their plans. Vincent understood immediately what his daughter was doing, creating confusion, buying time. He felt a surge of pride at her quick thinking. "Natalie's here?" Vincent asked, playing along. "Check if she's alone," Reynolds ordered Walsh, who moved cautiously to the window. That moment of divided attention was all Vincent needed. In one fluid motion, he reached beneath the armchair cushion and withdrew a handgun, one of several he had strategically placed throughout the house after the accident. "Down," he shouted to Amanda and Lisa as he fired a single shot, catching Walsh in the shoulder before the man could turn fully around. The professional mercenary staggered but didn't fall, raising his own weapon. Vincent launched himself sideways as Walsh's shot splintered the chair where he had been sitting. Rolling behind a heavy oak credenza, Vincent fired twice more, forcing Walsh to seek cover behind the living room doorway. Reynolds, panicking and exposed, lunged toward Amanda. Whether as a hostage or simply out of desperation wasn't clear. He never reached her. Amanda, despite her healing injuries, delivered a sharp kick to Reynolds' knee, sending him stumbling. Lisa, showing unexpected courage, grabbed a heavy crystal vase and brought it down on the back of his head. Reynolds collapsed in a heap of expensive tailoring and poor decisions. Walsh, realizing his employer was down and his position compromised, fired several wild shots into the room before retreating toward the front door. Vincent pursued cautiously, unwilling to let the mercenary escape, but prioritizing his family's safety. The front door burst open before Walsh reached it. Leo Harmon stood in the doorway, blood trickling from a gash on his temple, but his gun held steady. "Drop it," Leo ordered. His Marine training evident in his stance and unwavering aim. Walsh hesitated, calculating his chances. Bleeding from Vincent's shot, cornered between two armed men, he slowly lowered his weapon to the floor. "Wise choice," Vincent remarked, keeping his gun trained on Walsh as Leo secured the mercenary with zip ties. In the living room, Amanda and Lisa had Reynolds similarly restrained with belts from Vincent's collection. The developer still dazed from the blow to his head. "I called the police when I came to," Leo explained. "They should be here any minute. Found the rest of the security team unconscious, but alive." Vincent nodded, moving to Amanda's side. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, her composure remarkable under the circumstances. "I'm okay. But Dad, there's something you should know. Mom really was following us. I saw her car when we left Aunt Lisa's." Vincent frowned, scanning the street visible through the front windows. No sign of Natalie. Had Amanda merely invented that detail as a distraction, or had Natalie actually been tracking their movements? The question became academic as police sirens wailed in the distance. Within minutes the house was swarming with officers taking statements and paramedics treating the wounded. Reynolds and Walsh were taken into custody. The charges now expanded to include attempted murder, kidnapping, and assault. Hours later, After the police had finally departed, and Amanda was resting upstairs under Lisa's watchful eye, Vincent sat in his study with Leo, reviewing the security failures that had allowed the intrusion. They used military-grade tranquilizer darts, Leo explained, still looking ashamed despite his eventual heroics. Silent, effective, Walsh knew what he was doing. You performed admirably under the circumstances, Vincent assured him. But we need to upgrade the entire system. No chances with Amanda's safety. Leo nodded solemnly. Already on it. He hesitated. Vincent, there's something else. During the police investigation they found documentation in Reynolds' car, records of all the transactions between him and Natalie, communications about their plans. Vincent's eyebrow rose. What kind of plans? It appears they were plotting more than an affair. Natalie had been systematically gathering information about your business dealings, sensitive projects, client relationships. Reynolds was using that to approach your competitors, offering inside information. Cold fury washed through Vincent. The betrayal was even deeper than he had imagined. Industrial espionage on top of everything else. The police have added conspiracy charges to their case against Reynolds. They're looking for Natalie now to question her as well. Vincent leaned back in his chair, processing this new information. Where is she? No one knows. She checked out of the Fairmont yesterday and hasn't been seen since. Her credit cards haven't been used. A soft knock interrupted them. Amanda stood in the doorway, looking pale but determined. I'm ready for that truth now, Dad, she said quietly. All of it. Vincent exchanged a glance with Leo, who nodded and discreetly left the room. As the door closed behind him, Vincent gestured for Amanda to take the seat across from him. It's not a pleasant story, he warned. Amanda's expression hardened in a way that reminded Vincent painfully of himself. I almost died because of them. I deserve to know why. Vincent nodded and began to speak, sharing everything. The affair, the financial theft, the industrial espionage, and finally, the terrible coincidence that had placed Amanda at the same intersection as Natalie and Dominic's reckless, intoxicated drive. When he finished, Amanda sat in silence for a long moment, absorbing the depth of her mother's betrayal. When she finally spoke, her voice was steady despite the tears in her eyes. I don't want to see her again, ever. Vincent reached across the desk, taking his daughter's hand. That's your choice to make. And what happens now? To them, Vincent's expression turned grim. Reynolds will face significant jail time for tonight's actions alone, not to mention the financial crimes and his role in your accident. As for your mother, you're not finished with her, are you? Amanda asked, displaying insight beyond her years. Vincent couldn't lie to his daughter. Not now. No, I'm not. Amanda nodded slowly. Good. She stood, suddenly looking exhausted. I'm going to bed. Good night, Dad. After she left, Vincent remained in his study, staring at the wall of family photographs he had not yet taken down. In each one, Natalie smiled beside him and Amanda, the perfect wife and mother. All illusion, all lies. His phone rang. Thomas Wells. Vincent, forgive the late hour, but I thought you should know immediately. Natalie just contacted my office requesting emergency protection. Protection? From whom? From you, Vincent. She's filing for a restraining order, claiming she fears for her life after what happened with Reynolds tonight. Vincent laughed, genuinely amused by the audacity of the move. Where is she? She wouldn't say. She's communicating through a new attorney, Caroline Wright. Very aggressive, very connected. Vincent recognized the name. Wright had a reputation for ruthlessness in divorce proceedings. Interesting choice. Let me guess. She's claiming I set Reynolds up, that the whole thing was a plot to frame Natalie and gain sole custody of Amanda. Thomas's silence confirmed Vincent's assumption. How did you know? Because it's what I would do in her position, Vincent replied coldly. A desperate countermove when all other options are exhausted. What do you want me to do? Vincent considered for a moment. Proceed as planned with the divorce. Don't contest the restraining order. It's meaningless now that Amanda has made her feelings clear. But Thomas? Yes. Find out who's bankrolling Natalie's new legal representation. Caroline Wright doesn't come cheap, and Natalie's funds are frozen. As Vincent ended the call, he moved to the window, gazing out at the city lights. Natalie's desperate gambit would fail. The evidence against her was too substantial, Amanda's testimony too damning. But her willingness to fight back instead of accepting defeat was unexpected. Perhaps he had underestimated her, a mistake he would not make again. Chapter 7. Serpents in the Garden. 2 months after the home invasion, Vincent sat across from Caroline Wright in a deposition room, his expression impassive as the attorney's aggressive questioning entered its third hour. Thomas Wells had advised against this meeting, but Vincent had insisted. He wanted to see firsthand what strategy Natalie and her new lawyer were pursuing. Mr. Delacroix, Wright continued, her tone precisely calibrated for maximum irritation. Isn't it true that you had financial motives for wanting Mr. Reynolds' development project to fail? No, Vincent replied simply, refusing to elaborate. Wright smiled thinly. Let me rephrase. Your company bid on the Riverside project and lost to Reynolds' development, correct? My company never bid on that project. It wasn't a good fit for our portfolio. Yet you purchased property adjacent to the project specifically to block its progress. Vincent smiled. I purchased property throughout San Francisco as investment opportunities arise. The timing was coincidental. Wright's frustration showed briefly before she regained her composure. Mr. Delacroix, your wife alleges that your vendetta against Dominic Reynolds predates any knowledge of their relationship, that you deliberately set out to destroy him professionally, and then used their affair as justification after the fact. Vincent leaned forward slightly. Miss Wright, my wife embezzled nearly $2 million from our joint accounts to fund her lover's failing project. She conspired with him to sell proprietary information about my business to competitors. And most damningly, she and Reynolds caused the accident that nearly killed my daughter, then continued their partying instead of coming to the hospital. These aren't allegations. They're documented facts. Wright shuffled her papers, clearly searching for a new angle. Let's discuss the night Mr. Reynolds and Mr. Walsh came to your home. You had a gun ready and waiting, didn't you? Almost as if you expected them. I had security measures in place because I had received threatening messages, Vincent replied calmly. A decision vindicated by subsequent events. Convenient timing, those threats. Thomas Wells finally interjected. Objection. Miss Wright is editorializing, not questioning. Wright waved a dismissive hand. Fine. Mr. Delacroix, one final question. Where were you the night of April 15 between the hours of 10 p.m. and 2 a.m.? The question was clearly designed as a trap, though Vincent couldn't immediately see how. He maintained his composure. At home. With my daughter and security staff. Can anyone besides your employees verify this? My daughter can. Wright smiled triumphantly. A 16-year-old dependent who stands to inherit your considerable fortune? Hardly an impartial witness. Vincent remained silent, recognizing the question as rhetorical. No further questions, Wright concluded, gathering her materials. We'll be in touch regarding continuation dates. After Wright departed, Thomas looked troubled. Vincent, she's building towards something specific with that question about April 15th. We need to find out what happened that night. Vincent nodded. Have Russell look into it immediately. He checked his watch. I need to get back to the office. We're finalizing the Harbor Point contract today. At Delacroix Construction, Vincent found Leo waiting in his office, his expression grim. We've got a problem. Valerie Thompson has been talking to reporters about Amanda. Vincent stilled. What kind of talking? Suggesting that Amanda's version of events might be coached, that she was actually in contact with Natalie regularly until you interfered. Leo handed over a tablet showing advanced copies of articles set to publish the next day. Natalie's trying to win the public opinion battle since she's losing in court. Vincent scanned the articles, his anger building with each paragraph. According to Thompson's sources close to the family, Amanda had been manipulated by Vincent into cutting ties with her mother. The pieces painted Natalie as a victim of Vincent's controlling behavior, suggesting that the affair had been her only escape from an emotionally abusive marriage. Contact Alexis Palmer, Vincent instructed, handing back the tablet. We need to get ahead of this narrative. Already done. She's preparing a counter-statement emphasizing the documented facts of Natalie's actions. But Vincent, there's something else. Leo hesitated. Russell found something about April 15th. There was a break-in at Natalie's hotel suite that night. Nothing was reported stolen, but the place was ransacked. Hotel security footage shows a man matching Garrett Walsh's description in the vicinity around that time. Vincent frowned. Walsh was working for Reynolds then. Why would he break into Natalie's room? That's where it gets interesting. According to Russell's contacts, Reynolds and Natalie had a major falling out right before this happened. Witnesses at the hotel bar overheard them arguing about money and documents. The implications were clear. Reynolds had sent Walsh to retrieve something from Natalie. Likely documents that could implicate him further in their schemes. Where was I that night? Vincent asked, trying to recall. At a business dinner with the zoning commissioner and 3 other developers. Dozens of witnesses, all above reproach. Leo looked relieved. Whatever Wright's trying to imply, you're covered. Vincent nodded, though something still felt off about the situation. Keep digging. If they're trying to construct a frame job, I want to know every detail before they spring it. That evening Vincent arrived home to find Amanda waiting for him in the study, her expression somber. Dad, Valerie Thompson called me today. She said Mom's in the hospital. Vincent set down his briefcase. What happened? She wouldn't say exactly, just that Mom had suffered a setback and was asking for me. Amanda's fingers twisted nervously in her lap. I told her I didn't want to see Mom, but you're wondering if you should, Vincent finished. Amanda nodded, looking younger and more vulnerable than she had in months. Is it wrong that part of me still cares what happens to her? After everything she did, Vincent sat beside his daughter, choosing his words carefully. Your feelings are never wrong, Amanda. She's your mother. That relationship is complicated in ways that can't be easily dismantled even after betrayal. Would you be angry if I want to see her? No, Vincent said honestly. I would be concerned for your well-being but not angry. Whatever you decide, I'll support you. Amanda leaned against his shoulder, the gesture reminiscent of her childhood. I think I need to see her, just once, to say everything I need to say to her face. Vincent nodded, though inwardly he was calculating. Natalie's sudden hospitalization and outreach through Valerie seemed suspiciously timed with the media campaign and Wright's deposition questions. I'll arrange it if that's what you want. But I'm coming with you. You don't trust her, Amanda observed. I don't trust any of them, Vincent corrected. Not with your safety or your emotional well-being. The following morning, Vincent's suspicions were confirmed when Russell called with new information. Natalie wasn't hospitalized for medical reasons. She checked herself into Lakeside Wellness Center, a high-end rehab facility specializing in trauma recovery and substance abuse. Creating a sympathetic narrative, Vincent concluded, the traumatized wife seeking help while the controlling husband pursues vengeance. Clever. There's more, Russell continued. I found out who's backing Wright's legal fees. Maxwell Brennan. Vincent's grip tightened on the phone. Maxwell Brennan was one of his oldest rivals in the construction industry. A man who had lost several major contracts to Delacroix Construction and harbored a personal grudge against Vincent. That he would align himself with Natalie was concerning but not surprising. Interesting development, Vincent remarked. Keep watching Brennan's movements. And Russell, find out everything you can about his current projects, particularly any that might be vulnerable to disruption. After ending the call, Vincent sat at his desk, contemplating this new alliance against him. Natalie had always been socially adept, forming connections that served her interests. That she had managed to secure Brennan's support suggested she had something valuable to offer in return. Likely information about Vincent's business that could give Brennan a competitive advantage. His phone buzzed with a text from Amanda. Still want to see Mom? When can we go? Vincent replied. I'll make arrangements tomorrow afternoon. As he set down his phone, he knew that the meeting would be a crucial turning point. Natalie would undoubtedly try to use Amanda's visit to further her narrative of victimhood. But she had underestimated both Vincent's foresight and, more critically, Amanda's intelligence and emotional strength. Tamara would bring them face to face for the first time since the accident. The woman who had betrayed their family and the man determined to ensure she lost everything for it. Vincent would be ready. The only question was whether Natalie realized what she was truly facing. Chapter 8. The Fall. Lakeside Wellness Center resembled a luxury resort more than a medical facility, with manicured grounds surrounding a complex of elegant buildings overlooking Lake Merced. Vincent drove through the security gate with Amanda beside him, both silent as they approached what would undoubtedly be a difficult encounter. Remember, Vincent said finally as he parked, you don't have to stay if you become uncomfortable. We leave the moment you want to. Amanda nodded, her expression determined despite the tension evident in her posture. I know what I want to say to her. They were escorted to a private garden courtyard where Natalie waited, looking far more frail than Vincent had anticipated. Her designer clothes hung loosely on her frame, and without her usual polished makeup, the strain of recent months showed clearly on her face. Still, Vincent recognized the calculation in how she presented herself. The victim, worn down by circumstances beyond her control. Amanda, Natalie breathed, rising shakily as they entered, her eyes filled with tears as she moved toward her daughter, arms outstretched. Amanda stepped back subtly, maintaining distance. Mom. Natalie's arms lowered slowly, her gaze shifting to Vincent. No warmth remained in her eyes as she regarded her husband. I didn't expect you to come. I go where my daughter goes, Vincent replied simply, taking a seat at the wrought iron table, especially when her safety is concerned. Her safety? Natalie's voice took on an edge. You're the one who put her in danger, Vincent, involving her in your vendetta against Dominic. Amanda's expression hardened. Stop it, Mom. Dad didn't put me in danger. You and your boyfriend did when you ran that red light and caused my accident. Then you couldn't even be bothered to come to the hospital because you were too busy partying. Natalie blinked rapidly, clearly surprised by Amanda's directness. Sweetheart, you don't understand what happened. I've never been the person your father is trying to paint me as. I saw the evidence, Amanda replied coldly. The bank statements showing you stole Dad's money, the text messages between you and Dominic planning to sell Dad's business information. The police reports from the accident. Documents can be manipulated, Natalie insisted. Your father has always been skillful at twisting situations to his advantage. Vincent remained silent, allowing Amanda to handle the conversation. His daughter surprised him with her composure. Then explain why you didn't come to the hospital when Dad called you, Amanda demanded. Explain why you told him you were with someone special when your daughter was injured. Natalie's facade cracked slightly, I had been drinking. I didn't understand the seriousness. You understood enough to lie about where you were, Amanda interrupted. And you understood enough to keep partying instead of coming to see me. Natalie's expression shifted to one of wounded dignity. I've made mistakes, Amanda. Terrible ones that I'll regret for the rest of my life. That's why I'm here, getting help, trying to become someone who deserves your forgiveness. Is that before or after you try to frame your daughter's father for crimes he didn't commit? Vincent finally interjected, his voice deceptively casual. Natalie's eyes narrowed. What are you talking about? April 15, Natalie. The night someone ransacked your hotel room. The night you've been trying, through your very expensive attorney, to imply I was somehow involved in threatening you. A flash of genuine confusion crossed Natalie's face before she could mask it. I don't know what you're talking about. My room was never ransacked. Vincent studied her closely. Either she was an exceptional actress, or she truly didn't know about the break-in. Interesting. Perhaps you should ask Maxwell Brennan about it since he's bankrolling your legal campaign. At the mention of Brennan's name, Natalie's expression became guarded. My personal relationships are none of your concern anymore, Vincent. They are when they involve my daughter. Vincent leaned forward slightly. Whatever game you and Brennan are playing won't work. The truth is documented, witnessed, and irrefutable. The truth, Natalie scoffed. Your version of it, you mean? Amanda stood suddenly. I've heard enough. I came here to tell you one thing, Mom. I don't want you in my life anymore. Not now, maybe not ever. What you did, it wasn't just betraying Dad. You betrayed me too. Natalie's composure collapsed entirely at her daughter's words. Amanda, please. I'm still your mother. I still love you. If you loved me, you would have been there when I needed you, Amanda replied, her voice breaking slightly. Dad, I'm ready to go. Vincent stood, placing a supportive hand on his daughter's shoulder. We're done here. As they turned to leave, Natalie called after them, her voice taking on a desperate edge. Vincent, this isn't over. You think you've won, but you have no idea what's coming. Vincent paused, looking back at his soon-to-be ex-wife. That's where you're wrong, Natalie. It was over the moment you chose Reynolds over your own daughter's safety. In the car, Amanda remained silent until they had left the wellness center grounds. She's not sorry for what she did, she said finally, just sorry she got caught. Vincent nodded, impressed by his daughter's insight. Some people are incapable of genuine remorse. What did she mean about what's coming? An empty threat, Vincent assured her, though inwardly he was already calculating possibilities. Natalie's mention of Brennan confirmed his suspicions about their alliance, but her apparent ignorance about the hotel break-in raised new questions. Later that evening, after ensuring Amanda was settled with friends for a movie night, Vincent met with Leo and Russell in his study. Thomas Wells joined them via video conference, his expression grave. Caroline Wright filed new motions today, Thomas reported. She's alleging that you orchestrated the entire situation with Reynolds and Walsh as a setup to frame Natalie. According to their filing, you supposedly hired Walsh yourself to stage the home invasion, knowing Reynolds would be implicated. Vincent shook his head at the absurdity. Do they have any evidence for this fantasy? They're claiming to have phone records showing communications between you and Walsh prior to the incident. Leo frowned. That's impossible. Vincent never had contact with Walsh. Russell looked uncomfortable. Actually, there might be an explanation for this. Remember when we were monitoring Reynolds and Walsh? We used a burner phone registered to a shell company technically owned by Delacroix Construction's parent holding group. If someone dug deep enough and had the right connections, they could fabricate a connection, Vincent finished, understanding immediately. Brennan has those connections in the telecommunications industry. Thomas looked concerned. This complicates our position. The court might. The court will see through this pathetic attempt at misdirection, Vincent interrupted. Walsh has already given a full confession implicating Reynolds as his employer. Amanda and Lisa were witnesses to the entire event, and most importantly, Reynolds himself has admitted to hiring Walsh in exchange for a reduced sentence. About that, Russell interjected. Reynolds recanted his confession this morning. His new statement claims you paid him to take the fall. The room fell silent as the implications settled over them. Brennan and Natalie had clearly been busier than anticipated, reaching Reynolds in custody and convincing him to change his story. They're getting desperate, Vincent observed after a moment, which means they're planning something significant. What's our next move? Leo asked. Vincent considered briefly. Thomas, request a postponement on the divorce proceedings. Cite these new allegations as requiring additional investigation time. And Brennan? Russell questioned. I think it's time I had a direct conversation with Maxwell Brennan, Vincent decided. Leo, arrange a meeting, private, neutral location. As the others departed to execute their tasks, Vincent remained in his study, reviewing the family photographs he still hadn't removed. In one, taken 3 years earlier during a vacation in Lake Tahoe, Natalie smiled beside him, her arm around Amanda. They had seemed happy then, or at least he had believed they were. Had there been signs he missed? Moments when the facade cracked, revealing Natalie's true nature? Vincent wasn't given to self-doubt, but he wondered now how he had failed to see what lived beneath the perfect wife's carefully constructed exterior. His phone rang, an unlisted number. Vincent answered cautiously. Delacroix. Maxwell Brennan's voice was instantly recognizable, its cultivated Harvard accent contrasting with Vincent's self-made success. "I hear you've been looking for me. Brennan, interesting choice of allies you've made recently." Brennan chuckled. "Natalie is a remarkable woman, intelligent, resourceful, and deeply motivated to see justice done. Is that what you call embezzlement and endangering a child these days? Justice?" "I call correcting a power imbalance justice," Brennan replied smoothly. "You've dominated that poor woman for years, Vincent. Controlled her finances, isolated her socially, driven her to desperate measures to escape your influence." Vincent almost laughed at the absurdity of the characterization. "Is that the story she sold you?" "Alongside whatever business secrets she promised, Natalie has been quite forthcoming about your operations," Brennan acknowledged. "Consider it fair compensation for my assistance in her difficult situation." "Let me be very clear, Maxwell," Vincent said, his voice dropping to a dangerous register. "Whatever game you and Natalie are playing will fail. The evidence against her is overwhelming, irrefutable, and in the hands of both my attorneys and the district attorney's office." "Evidence can disappear, Vincent. Witnesses can reconsider their statements. Even your precious daughter might eventually see the situation differently." At the implied threat toward Amanda, Vincent's control nearly slipped. "If you come anywhere near my daughter, what I've done to Reynolds will seem merciful compared to what I'll do to you." Brennan laughed softly. "Always the barbarian beneath the bespoke suit, aren't you? This is why Natalie had to escape. This barely contained violence. Is there a point to this call, Brennan? Or did you just want to demonstrate your poor judgment in business associates?" "Actually, I'm calling with an offer." Brennan's tone shifted to business-like efficiency. "Withdraw the embezzlement claims against Natalie, agree to her proposed settlement terms, and I'll ensure that certain sensitive information about your less legitimate business dealings never reaches the authorities." Now Vincent did laugh. "I have no illegitimate business dealings, Maxwell. Unlike you, I've never needed to bribe officials or cut corners on safety regulations to win contracts. Everyone has secrets, Vincent, even you. This conversation is over. The next time we speak will be through attorneys." Vincent ended the call, his mind already processing the implications of Brennan's threats. Whatever sensitive information Brennan believed he had was either fabricated or misunderstood. Vincent had built his company with ruthless efficiency, but strict adherence to legal requirements. Still, the fact that Brennan felt confident enough to make such threats suggested he believed he had something substantial. Vincent picked up his phone again and called Russell. "I need you to look into Brennan's current projects. Specifically, find out if he's working on anything that might intersect with my past developments." "Already on it," Russell replied. "Preliminary research shows Brennan Construction recently acquired property adjacent to your Westlake development from 5 years ago. They've been conducting soil testing and structural surveys of the surrounding area." Vincent frowned, recalling the Westlake project, a complex of luxury condominiums that had faced numerous challenges during development, including unexpected soil contamination that had required specialized remediation. The project had been completed successfully and remained one of Delacroix Construction's signature achievements, but the remediation process had been costly and complicated. "Send me everything you have on Brennan's acquisition and testing," Vincent instructed. "And Russell, accelerate our timeline. Whatever Brennan and Natalie are planning, we need to be ahead of it." As he ended the call, Vincent gazed out at the city lights, his expression hardening with resolve. Brennan and Natalie believed they had found a way to turn the tables to transform Vincent from hunter to hunted. Their confidence suggested they had something they considered powerful leverage, but they had forgotten the most fundamental rule of challenging Vincent Delacroix. He never entered a battle he hadn't already calculated how to win, and this one would end like all the others, with his enemies completely, irrevocably destroyed. Chapter 9. Ashes and Rebirth. The conference room at Thomas Wells' law offices was silent as Vincent reviewed the documents spread before him. Dawn light filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the culmination of 3 days of intensive investigation. "They found the original environmental report," Thomas said finally, breaking the silence. "The one that was modified before filing with the city." Vincent nodded, unsurprised. Brennan's people have been thorough. The Westlake development had indeed harbored a secret, though not the one Brennan likely expected. During initial testing, elevated levels of carcinogenic compounds had been discovered in the soil, significantly higher than what appeared in the final remediation report submitted to regulators. But the discrepancy wasn't due to falsification on Vincent's part. The remediation was complete and effective, Leo confirmed, pointing to independent testing data compiled by their team. The modified report wasn't hiding contamination. It was hiding the advanced remediation methods you developed specifically for that project. Vincent had invested millions in developing a proprietary bioremediation system for the Westlake site, a method that had proven 3 times more effective than standard techniques, and had since become a closely guarded competitive advantage for Delacroix Construction. The original report had been modified not to conceal dangers, but to protect the technical specifications of the innovative system from competitors. Brennan thinks he's found evidence of a cover-up, Vincent concluded, when what he's actually found is evidence of innovation he could never achieve himself. Thomas looked relieved. So there's no actual liability issue here. None whatsoever, Vincent confirmed. The remediation exceeded regulatory requirements by a substantial margin, but Brennan doesn't know that. He believes he's found my Achilles heel, and Natalie provided him the clues to look there, Leo added. She would have known about the report modification from your discussions at the time, but not the reason behind it. Vincent's phone buzzed with a text from Russell. Package delivered. Response expected within the hour. Good, Vincent acknowledged. Is everything in place at the Sentinel? Leo nodded. Full security team, recording equipment and witnesses standing by in the adjacent room. Vincent stood, straightening his tie with methodical precision. Then it's time to end this. An hour later, Vincent sat alone in a private dining room at the Sentinel Hotel, waiting. The space had been carefully prepared, recording devices hidden but legally placed, witnesses positioned to observe without being seen, and security personnel strategically located throughout the hotel. The door opened, admitting Maxwell Brennan, Caroline Wright, and surprisingly, Natalie. Vincent's soon-to-be ex-wife looked considerably more polished than during their last encounter at the wellness center. Her designer suit and perfect makeup projecting confidence rather than fragility. A full delegation, Vincent remarked dryly. I'm honored. Brennan smiled thinly. We thought it best to have all interested parties present for this discussion. I assume you've reviewed the materials Russell delivered this morning, your desperate attempt at distraction? Caroline Wright interjected. Hardly worth our time. Vincent turned his attention to the attorney. Miss Wright, I invited Mr. Brennan to this meeting. Your presence is tolerated, not required. Brennan held up a placating hand. Caroline is here at my request, Vincent, as is Natalie. He placed a folder on the table, sliding it toward Vincent. We have a proposition for you. Vincent didn't touch the folder. Let me guess. You believe you've found evidence of environmental violations at Westlake. You're threatening to take this supposed evidence to regulators unless I meet your demands. Natalie leaned forward, unable to contain herself. We don't believe Vincent, we know. The original environmental reports show contamination levels far higher than what was reported to the city. Contamination that's likely still present and affecting residents. An interesting theory, Vincent replied calmly. Flawed, but interesting. This isn't a negotiation, Brennan declared. It's an ultimatum. You will withdraw all claims against Natalie. You will publicly retract allegations regarding her involvement in Amanda's accident. You will agree to her proposed divorce settlement, including shared custody and 50% of all assets, and you will transfer development rights for the property blocking Reynolds Riverside project. And if I decline this generous offer? Caroline Wright smiled coldly. Then the EPA, the district attorney and the families currently living at Westlake, all receive copies of these reports, along with expert analysis of the health risks they've been subjected to because of your cost-cutting measures. Vincent allowed several seconds of silence to pass as he studied each of their faces. Brennan's smug confidence, Wright's professional detachment, and Natalie's barely concealed triumph. Before I respond, Vincent said finally, I have a question for my wife. He turned to Natalie. Did you ever wonder why I modified that report? Natalie's expression flickered with uncertainty. To hide the contamination and avoid the cost of proper remediation, you boasted about how much money you saved on that project. I boasted about the efficiency of the remediation system I developed, Vincent corrected. A system that cost $3 million more than standard methods but achieved complete removal of contaminants in half the time. Doubt crept into Natalie's eyes. You're lying. The modified report protected the technical specifications of a proprietary system that has since become one of my company's most valuable assets, Vincent finished. A system that competitors like Brennan would love to replicate. He reached for his briefcase, withdrawing a thick binder. This contains complete documentation of the Westlake remediation process, including independent verification testing conducted quarterly since completion. Testing that confirms contamination levels well below regulatory thresholds. He slid the binder toward Brennan. Feel free to have your experts review it. Brennan didn't reach for the binder, his confidence visibly faltering. This could easily be fabricated. It could, Vincent acknowledged, just as your supposed evidence could be. The difference is I have no reason to fabricate mine. The residents of Westlake have never experienced health issues related to soil contamination because there is none. Your threat is empty, Maxwell. Caroline Wright, sensing the shift in momentum, attempted to regain control. This doesn't change the facts of Natalie's case. Your vendetta against her and Dominic Reynolds is fully documented and witnessed, Vincent interrupted. Speaking of witnesses, he pressed a button on the table's intercom. Send them in. The door opened to admit Leo, followed by a man none of them recognized, middle-aged, unremarkable in appearance except for the nervous way he adjusted his glasses. This is Dr. Harold Freeman, Vincent introduced, Chief Environmental Engineer for the Westlake Project, and the developer of the bioremediation system you believe I was concealing. Dr. Freeman nodded awkwardly. The system was revolutionary at the time. Still is, really. Complete molecular breakdown of carcinogenic compounds using engineered bacteria specifically designed for the soil composition at Westlake. Nothing like it on the market. Brennan's expression had shifted from confidence to calculation. If what you're saying is true, then the modified report was protecting intellectual property, not concealing contamination, Vincent confirmed. But that's not the only misunderstanding we're clearing up today. He nodded to Leo, who opened the door again. This time the new arrival caused Natalie to physically recoil. Garrett Walsh, escorted by 2 security officers, his hands cuffed in front of him. What is this? Caroline Wright demanded, half rising from her seat. Clarity, Vincent replied simply. Mr. Walsh has agreed to provide some context about events of recent months, particularly about the night of April 15th. Walsh looked directly at Natalie. Mrs. Delacroix hired me 3 days before the hotel room incident. She wanted me to stage a break-in, make it look like someone was threatening her. Part of building a case against her husband. Natalie's face drained of color. That's a lie. I never met this man before the night. He came to our house with Dominic. We met at the Pinnacle Bar on April 12th, Walsh continued, his tone professional, detached. You paid me $5,000 in cash to ransack your hotel room while you were out. You provided the access key and specific instructions about what to damage and what to leave untouched. Vincent turned to Brennan. This is the foundation of your conspiracy theory, Maxwell. A staged crime orchestrated by Natalie herself to create the illusion of victimhood. Brennan looked at Natalie, his expression hardening. Is this true? Of course not. Natalie's composure was cracking rapidly. He's lying. Vincent obviously paid him to say this. Just like you paid Reynolds to recant his confession, Vincent countered. The difference is, Walsh's statement is corroborated by hotel security footage, financial records and phone logs. Real ones, not the fabricated connections you try to establish between Walsh and me. Caroline Wright, recognizing the rapidly deteriorating situation, attempted damage control. This is all very dramatic, Vincent, but ultimately unprovable in court. Witness testimony from a convicted criminal hardly. I'm not finished, Vincent interrupted. While investigating the break-in, Russell discovered something interesting on the hotel's security cameras. Footage of Natalie meeting with someone the day before, someone who isn't Dominic Reynolds. Vincent nodded to Leo once more, who activated a screen on the wall. Security footage played, showing Natalie in the hotel lobby, embracing a man whose face was briefly visible to the camera, Maxwell Brennan. Your affair with my wife predates her relationship with Reynolds, doesn't it, Maxwell? Vincent's voice remained conversational despite the damning evidence playing on the screen. In fact, you introduced them. Reynolds was your proxy, your way of maintaining distance while still orchestrating Natalie's extraction of information about my business. Brennan's expression had turned to stone, neither confirming nor denying the accusation. You were the architect, Vincent continued. Reynolds was merely the instrument. You wanted insider information about my projects, my bidding strategies, my proprietary technologies. And you used Natalie to get it. Natalie stood abruptly. This meeting is over. Caroline, we're leaving. Sit down, Natalie, Vincent commanded, his tone leaving no room for argument. We're just getting to the interesting part. To everyone's surprise, Natalie hesitated, then slowly sank back into her chair. Your relationship with Brennan goes back at least 2 years, Vincent continued, long before your affair with Reynolds. But Brennan was careful, too careful to risk being directly implicated if your espionage was discovered. So he found Reynolds, a useful idiot with financial problems and flexible ethics, to serve as your public lover and the fall guy if necessary. Vincent leaned forward. What I don't know is whether you caused Amanda's accident deliberately, or if it was simply the reckless consequence of your double life finally spiraling out of control. I would never hurt Amanda, Natalie whispered, tears forming in her eyes. The accident it was terrible timing. Dominic had been drinking. I tried to take the keys but saved the performance. Vincent cut her off coldly. Your actions speak louder than your words. When our daughter needed you, you chose to continue your deception rather than come to her. Vincent turned to Brennan and Wright. Here's my counteroffer. Natalie will receive exactly what the law entitles her to in our divorce, which, given the documented embezzlement in her role in industrial espionage, amounts to very little. She will have no contact with Amanda unless our daughter initiates it. And you, Maxwell, will withdraw completely from any projects adjacent to my developments, particularly the Westlake expansion. Or what? Brennan challenged, though his bravado had diminished significantly. Or the evidence of your conspiracy with Natalie, your recruitment of Reynolds, and your attempted blackmail of a business competitor all becomes very public. Vincent smiled thinly. Your shareholders have been concerned about your recent project delays, haven't they? Imagine their reaction to learning their CEO has been engaging in corporate espionage, rather than focusing on legitimate business development. Caroline Wright, recognizing the hopelessness of their position, closed her folder. We'll need to confer privately before responding to this proposal. Of course, Vincent agreed magnanimously. Take all the time you need. Just know that if you leave this hotel without accepting these terms, the evidence goes public immediately. After Brennan, Wright, and Walsh had been escorted out, Vincent and Natalie remained alone in the conference room for several minutes. Neither spoke. The weight of 16 years together, and all that had been destroyed hanging between them. Why Natalie? Vincent finally asked, genuine curiosity in his voice. We had everything. Success, comfort, a beautiful daughter. What made you throw it all away? Natalie's laugh was bitter. Everything. We had everything you wanted, Vincent. Your company, your schedule, your priorities. I was just furniture. Beautiful decoration for your perfect life. That's not true, isn't it? When was the last time you asked what I wanted, what my dreams were? Natalie's anger seemed to crumble, leaving only exhaustion. I was dying inside Vincent, slowly disappearing. Brennan made me feel seen for the first time in years. Vincent considered her words, searching his memory for evidence to refute them. Had he truly been so consumed by his work, his ambitions, that he'd failed to see his wife's unhappiness? Perhaps. But that explanation, however valid, couldn't justify what followed. Even if that were true, he said finally, it doesn't excuse betraying your family, endangering your daughter, trying to destroy me. No, Natalie admitted quietly, it doesn't. I lost myself somewhere along the way. Became someone I never thought I could be. She looked up, meeting his eyes directly. I am sorry about Amanda. Whatever you believe about me, I love our daughter. Vincent nodded once, acknowledging her sincerity on this point at least. Then accept the terms. End this cleanly. Give her a chance to heal without being caught in a prolonged legal battle. Natalie studied him for a long moment. You really are ruthless, aren't you? Even now, knowing I've lost everything, you won't show an ounce of mercy. Mercy is for those who deserve it, Vincent replied coldly. You chose your path, Natalie. Now you can choose how the story ends, with some dignity intact, or with complete destruction. 6 months later, Vincent stood in his office, gazing out at the San Francisco skyline as the setting sun painted the buildings in gold and amber. The divorce was finalized, with Natalie accepting the minimal settlement he had offered. Brennan Construction had withdrawn from all projects near Delacroix Developments, and was reportedly struggling financially, after several major investors holed out following rumors of corporate espionage. Dominic Reynolds had pleaded guilty to reduced charges in exchange for testimony against Brennan, receiving a 5-year sentence. The Riverside project had been acquired by Delacroix Construction at a fraction of its value, and was now being redesigned as a mixed-use development that would become the company's new flagship project. Most importantly, Amanda was thriving. The physical scars from her accident had faded, and while the emotional wounds remained, she had shown remarkable resilience. She had chosen to have limited supervised contact with Natalie, monthly lunches that Vincent neither encouraged nor discouraged. Respecting his daughter's decision to maintain some connection with her mother despite everything. A knock at the door interrupted his reflection. Leo entered, carrying a folder. Final report on the Brennan situation, he announced, placing it on Vincent's desk. His company filed for Chapter 11 this morning. Restructuring, but industry analysts don't expect it to survive. Vincent nodded, unsurprised. And Natalie? Moved to Chicago last week. She's staying with her sister, looking for work in event planning. Leo hesitated. She left a letter for Amanda. It's been screened. Nothing manipulative or concerning. Give it to her. Vincent decided after a moment's consideration. Amanda can decide whether she wants to read it. Leo nodded. There's one more thing, Thomas called. The DA is closing the investigation into the industrial espionage allegations. Insufficient evidence to proceed without your cooperation. Vincent smiled thinly. As expected, once Brennan and Natalie were neutralized, there was no point in pursuing criminal charges. Better to let them live with the consequences of their actions. After Leo departed, Vincent returned to the window, watching as lights began to illuminate the darkening city. The vengeance he had orchestrated was complete. His enemies destroyed not through violence or illegality, but through the careful, methodical application of truth, leverage and power. He felt no joy in their downfall, only the cold satisfaction of justice served. Natalie and her conspirators had attempted to take what mattered most to him, his daughter's safety, his company's integrity, his carefully built life. They had failed, and in failing, had lost everything themselves. Vincent Delacroix turned from the window to his desk where blueprints for the Riverside development awaited his attention. The past was settled. Now it was time to build the future stronger, more secure, and free from those who had proven themselves unworthy of his trust or mercy. In the world Vincent inhabited, betrayal was unforgivable, and vengeance, when necessary, was absolute. Those who had learned this lesson would never forget it. Those who hadn't yet would eventually. And Vincent would continue as he always had, protecting what was his with unwavering determination and ruthless efficiency. No mercy for the deserving, no forgiveness for the disloyal. These were the principles by which he lived, the code that had brought him success, and now, finally, justice. Thanks for watching. Take care. Good luck.
After listening to today's story, perhaps it has raised some new questions in your mind, or maybe it has brought back some old memories. Every day on Reddit, new experiences and moments create fresh stories, and they connect all of us. Everyone has their own unique journey in life, and we all try to understand the world in our own way. These kinds of moments remind us that we are all human, sometimes happy, sometimes sad, and always learning something new. If you enjoyed this story, feel free to share it with your friends. Your thoughts and feedback are always valuable to us, as they motivate us to create even better content. Every story has its own unique angle, and our goal is to understand everyone's perspective and make our content diverse and relatable. Stories like these help us realize that life's journey is different for everyone, and by hearing other stories, we learn something new. You can also share your own stories with us. Your experiences are valuable to us as well, and if you enjoyed this video, please leave your feedback. We aim to create content that brightens your mind and gives you new ideas every time. If you've already seen this video before, your feedback is still important. With every piece of feedback, we can improve our content and bring a new perspective to our viewers. Today, what we saw was just a small part of the many stories shared on Reddit and across the world. It's a reminder of how we all try to understand life by sharing our experiences with each other. This video was only an example of how we try to connect with others through storytelling, learning about different sides of life. We hope to continue sharing such stories that help us all learn and grow together. Thank you for your time, and don't forget to keep an eye out for more stories coming soon. If you haven't already, please like and follow for more amazing content. Your support keeps us going, and we will strive to bring you more thought-provoking and heartwarming stories. Until next time, take care and stay curious. **